You're listening to Notch 6 at the LCCA National Convention from Boston, Massachusetts. You can find all the news and interviews from this convention at notch6.com. The following is a production of Notch 6 Media.
It's the Notch 6 online podcast, episode number 59. Tonight in Boston, the president of the Boston Metro High Railers visits with me and tells us of some of the challenges they faced with designing and building such a large layout. Plus, you'll find out the advantages of having club members involved that have backgrounds in studying at MIT. It's all ahead on this exciting and practical episode of Notch 6.
This is the Notch 6 online podcast. Notch 6 is the podcast dedicated to O-gauge trains. Whether you're collecting, operating, or just getting started, Notch 6 is your home for O-gauge news, events, and interviews. Now here is your host, Derek Thomas.
Well, welcome into another episode of Notch 6, brought to you each and every episode by the folks at Trains.com. That's Trains spelled with a Z, T-R-A-I-N-Z. Trains is adding new product all the time to their website at Trains.com. There are over 45,000 trains, model kits, die-cast vehicles, scenery items, and so much more. It's all waiting for you at Trains.com. Thanks to Trains for sponsoring the show and getting us to Boston. And it is night 2, Monday evening. Back for another round of trouble. Al Kolis, president-elect of the LCCA, and who knows what his title currently is, but we like him and we keep him around. Al, welcome back for the second night.
Well, thank you, Derek. Glad to be here. We're here at the Doubletree Hotel in Danvers, Massachusetts, and our members from all over the country are coming in and having a great time. We had a big Conway Scenic Railroad train excursion today. So most of our members that came in signed up for that tour, and so they spent all day, going through the beautiful mountains of New Hampshire and stopping in the historical Portsmouth, New Hampshire area, and just a beautiful scenic train excursion. So they had a great time with that.
Any excuse to get out on a train is a good excuse. And the cool thing that I noticed, and maybe this is, I guess I would call this art imitating life. Conway has a beautiful painted Boston and Maine. I think theirs is a Jeep 7, and it looks almost identical to the Boston and Maine Jeep 7 or 9 that the LCCA is putting out this year. And it's just kind of cool to go out on the railroad and see the real thing in person and know that you're going to be able to take the model home at some point. So kudos to the LCCA for getting out there and making a pretty accurate representation of what the real railroads actually have out there running.
Well, thank you for your paying attention to that. That's something that we try to do. In all our convention cars, we try to maintain a theme based upon our convention experience. So it's glad to be appreciated. Thank you, Derek.
Yep. So, that's one thing that the LCCA does a really nice job of and has always done a nice job of is special product. The workshop today that I want to talk about for a few minutes is a project that the LCCA has had going. Really, I think it's been since the beginning of the year, if I'm not mistaken, and that is the traveling boxcar project. Can you tell me a little bit about kind of how the idea came about and when it got started?
Well, sure, but before I go back on that, I'd like to just talk a little bit about the LCCA offering free clinics and workshops. It's something that when families come to a convention, we appreciate them making the investment. It's a big financial commitment to come to a convention, especially on a week-long basis. You have transportation costs, you have hotel accommodation costs, and, we try to be in nice, clean, family-oriented hotel properties. We want our people to be safe, and we want good, clean hotels. And so we appreciate our members signing up for all the different tours and the activities. And so we try to offer up some freebies to them because we appreciate them being there. And so we're planning on having several different free clinics and seminars. The first night, we have Tim Furman, who is a volunteer member who is coordinating the LCCA Switching Tracks Traveling Boxcar program. And that originated back when Dennis DeVito, myself, and Ed Richter, the voice of the LCCA in our video productions, was talking around, and we came up with the idea it would be kind of cool to make a boxcar, have it sent to our members, and then the members, put it on their layouts, and you take pictures of it, and then you rotate it. They send it back to our business office, and then we send it back to another member who makes the request. And so the idea is it's a fun exchange. People get involved with the hobby. They post their pictures on their Facebook. The Switching Tracks Traveling Boxcar has been going around the country. It's been to Comerica Park, a modern league baseball stadium. It's literally touched the moon rock at the Air and Space Museum in Washington, D.C. It's been on the mall at Washington, D.C. It's been in York, Pennsylvania. And recently, it even made a trip to Angela Trotter Thomas's son's wedding. Believe it or not, we have a picture of the bride and groom with the Switching Tracks Traveling Boxcar. So people are having fun with it, and that's what it's all about. A little bit of whimsy, but it's a beautiful car. It's like 9 different colors in the car that we had made this year. We made 12 cars, and it's been overseas. It's been to England. Nick Hanford, a member over there, has been gracious. He's built modular layouts there, and he's had the LCCA Switching Tracks Traveling Boxcar at their train shows. So it's getting a lot of mileage, literally. It's going all over the world.
It was cool to see the photos that you posted of the car over in England, and sometimes I think it's easy for us to forget that the O-Gauge hobby is a global hobby, and every once in a while I'll kind of check in on our website, and I'm sure you guys can speak to this as well from the LCCA, and I'll check in, on the Notch 6 website, and I can see where our traffic's coming from, and I guess it always strikes me as amazing that we have listeners all over the world, and the LCCA is more than just the LCCA in terms of there are folks paying attention to the LCCA from all around the world as well. And so for this traveling boxcar project, to have a boxcar go overseas, run on somebody's O-Gauge layout, and then come back to the States and get a chance to make it to somebody else's layout is just really, really cool, and that's got to be exciting for you guys.
Oh, it is. It's very exciting. And then, you see the youngsters or junior members take the car and have fun with it. But people of all ages are having fun with it. That's the really cool thing about it. They'll put it on their shelves amongst all their other collections. And it gives our members an opportunity to showcase their layout, their collection. Everybody doesn't necessarily have a world-class layout. But this gives them an opportunity to share their love and their passion and their creation with our other members. It's exciting.
Yeah, and that's the cool thing about a club like the LCCA is it encompasses everything from the super high-end, high-rail layout all the way down to what people lovingly refer to as their cruddy basement layouts that, are grass mat and a little bit of paint and it's tracked. But you know what? It's art no matter what it is, and it's what makes people happy. And the traveling boxcar, I think, is just a great example of this boxcar can go from magazine quality layouts all the way down to something that somebody, who's just getting started has put their best effort forward, and it may not be a magazine quality layout, but they love it and it means something to them. And this boxcar fits in no matter where it is.
And that's why I say there's no wrong way to enjoy this hobby. A layout is a personal expression of yourself and your experiences. In a lot of cases, our imagination fills in the details. But that's the magic of this hobby. You create your own little world in a smaller space, and it's just a personal expression. Whatever you like, you do it. Other people, everybody's different. Whether you collect Plasticville, whether you collect O-Gauge, post-war, pre-war, modern, steam, there's no wrong way to enjoy our hobby. As many people as we have, that's how many different layouts that we have. Every layout's unique.
Absolutely. Now, for the LCCA members that are listening to this, how do they go about requesting the boxcar to visit their home layout?
Well, there's a couple of different ways. You can go to our website, www.lionelcollectors.org. Basically, you need to reach out to club volunteer, Tim Furman, and I don't have his phone number handy, but you can go to our website or in our club publications. We have his email. You contact him. If there's a special event or a train show that you want to take it to, he tries real hard to accommodate people's requests. Tim is he's a regular member, number 25937. You can look him up on our website in our members only section, and you can reach out to him, and he'll make arrangements to send you the car.
Very cool. The other thing I want to talk about that happened today is that the LCCA store is officially open for business. And I think people who are hearing this on the podcast that have never been to a convention before might hear this and think, oh, that's great. They set up a table and put some train cars out on it to sell. No, not that's so far from the truth. It's not. So I'll share my experience. So I walk into the Indianapolis convention last year, and I walk down the hallway, down past the convention hall, and all of a sudden I see this big double-door banquet room, and you walk inside this room, and it's wall-to-wall Lionel products. And each year the LCCA does a couple of special cars to commemorate that convention, but the store is so much more than just those cars. There's all sorts of Lionel products, some past cars, some special run items, and it's kind of an overwhelming experience. Tell me a little bit about the store and some of the stuff that you can find in it.
Well, the store, it is a feeding frenzy. I mean, you swear to God, it was like people going to Disney World or something. It's just very exciting. One of the benefits of being an LCCA member is our affiliation with Lionel. So Lionel makes a lot of limited edition, special edition LCCA member product. In addition to that, we have an opportunity to get some closeout deals on Lionel catalog items. And so we're able to buy that from Lionel and then offer these sales to our members. It's a great member benefit. In a lot of cases, the savings that you get from the price that you buy the product from the LCCA compared to the catalog price, in a lot of cases, it more than covers the cost of an annual membership dues. So really it pays for your membership just in terms of savings if you're so inclined to buy product. But this year we also have a special car. We call it our on-site car. And this is, I don't know if you ever had a chance to see this, Derek, but it's a beautiful a piggyback. We have a flatbed truck with a wood floorboards, and then we have two tractor trailers. And one is the Lionel Blue with the 45 years, delivering 45 years of fun, which commemorates the LCCA's 45th year. And then the second trailer is Lionel Orange, and it's basically a rail truck service commemorating the Lionel 115th year. So it's a great piece that's visually appealing, and it's very collectible, and we think it's a unique piece. And it's something that if you register for the convention and if you attend, you have an opportunity to purchase this as our on-site car. That's available for purchase. If we have any left over, we are taking orders from some of our members, but it kind of complements our annual convention car, which is another flatbed car, but that contains the tractor trailers. They're die-cast tractors in the orange and blue colors, and it's a good complementary pair of flatbeds. They're actually beautiful. So that's something we have. We have an on-site trolley car. We just have so many different deals that it's impossible to mention, but it is a feeding frenzy. You wouldn't believe it until you experience it, like you said, Derek.
Something cool that I want to take a second to mention, and I think this kind of makes the week fun, that it gives things some purpose. One of the things that the LCCA and Lionel did last year, and again are doing this year, is, and I think it's the on-site car this year, actually only comes with one of the piggyback trailers. So what Lionel and the LCCA do is, if you come to the Friday afternoon seminar, which people don't normally miss anyway, because that's probably one of the big highlights of the week next to the Saturday night banquet, because that's where Lionel really rolls out some pretty cool stuff. Anyway, part of the reward of attending that seminar is you will receive the second trailer to go on your piggyback car. And so it's one more reason to attend that Friday afternoon seminar. And I might add that that Friday afternoon seminar is free of charge to LCCA members, and so is the second trailer. So the second trailer is a gift from Lionel and the LCCA to go with that car, and it's just really cool. And they did the same thing last year with the autos that went on the auto loader. So it's a neat way that the LCCA and Lionel continues to give to their members at this convention.
Yeah, it's just another example of Lionel's support and appreciation for our members. It's very gracious of them and very generous to provide these at no cost to our members. If they do miss the convention, the Lionel seminar, they do have an opportunity to purchase the trailer, but you can get it free just by registering for the convention and being an LCCA member that attends the Lionel seminar. And Lionel puts a really nice job of making a presentation. They talk about their future product development, their plans. It's a Q&A session. It's a golden opportunity to hear firsthand what Lionel has. As last year we announced Lionel Railroader Club merging into the LCCA. We may have some more announcements this Friday as well. So stay tuned for that.
Yeah, and they always get to hear it first at the seminar. Notch 6 is pretty hot on the heels in terms of we try to get the news out only a few hours after the seminar, but the seminar will always get the news first. And I think right now is a good point to stop here for a second. And for those folks who are listening who are thinking, wow, this sounds like a lot of fun, I want to stop and tell everybody for a second, if you are interested in becoming an LCCA member, the website is lionelcollectors.org. Now, here's the cool thing that I want to tell you about. Everybody is always concerned about, how their dollars are spent. It's something that people need to be conscious about. An LCCA membership, an electronic LCCA membership, can be had for as low as $25 a year. And as Al has said when we were talking about the store and all the special products that the LCCA offers during the year, for as low as $25, you can have access to all of those special products. And an e-membership gets you all of the regular benefits of a regular LCCA membership. The only difference is that the Lion Roars publication comes directly to your inbox, and you can access it through the lionelcollectors.org website. And that's really the only difference. But I tell you what, talk about bang for your buck and a great value. $25 for a year membership to the LCCA. It's pretty phenomenal.
And Derek, I encourage people, if they're in the Boston area, stop by the Danvers Doubletree Hotel, come into the LCCA registration desk. You can join the club. You can register for the convention. You could be part of these Lionel seminars. It's not too late. And come in, tell your relatives about us being there. From Wednesday through Saturday, the Lionel layout's going to be set up. We want to introduce the magic of Lionel trains to as many people as possible. So spread the word, get people down here, and they're going to have a good time.
Al, it was another great day in the LCCA. It sounds like a very productive day, a very fun day for the members. We'll come back, and we'll do it all again tomorrow.
Thank you, Derek. Have a good evening. Get some rest.
We'll be back with more Notch 6 and our feature interview right after these messages.
Before tonight's feature interview, I want to take just a moment and let you know about a special deal we have from the Madison Poster Company in honor of the LCCA National Convention. Head on over to our website, madisonposter.com, and there you're going to find the only reproduction of Lionel dealer posters in the entire world. And these posters are pretty outstanding, if I do say so myself. These are the big, giant murals you remember seeing in the department stores as a kid growing up, those ones that hung behind Lionel's amazing display layouts. Anyhow, head on over to madisonposter.com, use the keyword Boston at checkout, and for a limited time, we'll pick up the shipping on your poster. That's madisonposter.com and the keyword Boston for free shipping until August 7th, 2015.
This is Notch 6, your first source for breaking news and in-depth interviews in the world of O-Gauge.
Welcome back to the Notch 6 online podcast. One of my favorite parts of going to the LCCA convention every year is we get a chance to go out and tour some of the great layouts in the convention city that we happen to be in. The Boston Convention is no exception, and at the end of the week here in Boston, we get to go visit with the Boston Metro High Railers. Tonight we have their president, Andy Zalewski, with us. Andy, welcome to the show. It's so good to have you here. Thanks for the time.
Thank you, Derek. It's a pleasure.
So let's start off talking a little bit about the Boston Metro High Railers and their history. Give me a brief history of the club and how you've gotten to where you guys are at today.
Well, our club started in the basement of a hobby store in the mid-'90s. In 1996, the group that used to just meet and talk about trains and throw a couple bucks into a kitty found a beautiful space. It was a basement of an abandoned church that had been converted into an architect's office upstairs, and the basement was a nice high ceiling space. It was dry. It was pretty much climate controlled, and the layout of approximately 40 by 60 feet was begun. I joined the club a little bit later. I'm not one of the charter members, but I came in the mid-1980s, and at that time the layout was progressing. It wasn't to the point where anything could run completely around a loop and come back to the beginning or anything like that, but major portions of it were done. And the member Bob Bolin at the time was chief engineer and still is, and he had done a very accurate CAD layout using, I think it's RRCAD software. It not only showed the track plan, but it showed very precisely the elevations of the track. I personally was amazed as we began to build, and we would build different sections of the layout completely separate, and when they came to join up, they were perfect. The elevations, the grades, the curvature, everything was just perfect. So using lasers and all kinds of levels and alignment devices, we were able to build that plan. The concept of the layout is to bring a main line from Scranton, Pennsylvania up to Portland, Maine, roughly following the Boston and Maine here in Massachusetts, and the Delaware and Hudson line up from Scranton, which joins with the Boston and Maine. We're not totally replicating it to scale, but we do have that really as our theory and our concept. The industry around Scranton really grew up with the coal mines and the coal processing, and then as the trains came in the bridge line, they crossed a beautiful bridge, actually made by the Lackawanna Railroad, concrete arch bridge. We've actually measured and made plans from the Hollandkill Bridge on the High Line of the Lackawanna Railroad, came through the Hoosick Tunnel and came across Massachusetts up to Portland, Maine. Our layout does include a portion where we are going to do the port of Portland. We have portions where we've done the city of Scranton. It's kind of a small town on our layout, but it's Scranton, and the coal mining area around that. We also have a portion we call Lowell, which is a wonderful industrial city here in Massachusetts that goes back to the early mills and canals. Albany, actually we're modeling the Troy depot across the river from Albany, and that's going to be a real highlight of the center of the layout. So we've got some major landmarks. We've played loose with history, but we still follow that concept. The scenery, the hills are very much of a New England type of landscape, and Pennsylvania and New England. So that really is how the layout came to be. As far as the model railroad, the way it's constructed, we've used Gargrave's track throughout. Our minimum radius is about a 15-foot radius on the main lines. We do have one little part where it is a little bit sharper, but that gives us a beautiful curvature. We've super elevated the curves. We're actually in the process right now building a tall timber trestle, which is going to have a super elevated curve on top. The super elevation really is very elegant as the trains make their way around the layout. It's a beautiful sight to see. Not easy to make a piece of plywood bend into that type of a curve, let me tell you. We've figured out how to do that. Each of the tracks of the 2-track main line separately super elevated. Our power system, we really kind of learned the hard way. One of the things that almost ended the club was the day that I was elected president of the club, now 4 years ago. We found out that we lost our lease on our existing space at the time in the old basement of the church. So I had dreams of all the things I was going to do with the scenery and signal systems and all that, and that very quickly turned into, we've got to find a new place to put the club, or we've got to fold it up. And luckily we did find a beautiful space. It's an industrial building, level to the ground. It's got plenty of parking. We now have grade level access. We used to be in the basement where some of the older potential members couldn't even consider it because of the stairs and everything. Now we actually have full access for wheelchair-bound residents and members. Can come right in level with the grade, and guys can wheel their trains in. Those trains get heavier and heavier as we get older and older. So we were actually able to take the layout. The new space, amazingly, was within a foot each way of the dimensions of the old space. Has a nice high 10-foot ceiling. And we were able to cut the layout literally up. We all laugh about the Sawzall, but we used a little bit gentler tools than a Sawzall. Took it apart in April, and we had it all back together for our December open house. It was an amazing thing. The pictures of the piles of bits and pieces are pretty startling, but we were able to put together. And one of the really good things about that move was I had actually wired part of the old layout, and I'm an architect. I'm not an electrical engineer or an electrician, so you can imagine the spaghetti bowl mess of wires that was under there. And the trains ran, but a lot of people wondered why. When we rebuilt the layout, we completely rewired it. One of the fellows is not only an electrician, electrical engineer, but works for NSTAR, which is our local utility. So he planned the whole wiring system. We've divided into 3 power zones. We have TIUs from MTH that feed each of the 3 power zones. So as the trains progress around the main line of the layout, they actually move from one power zone to the next. We've had up to 10 trains on a single line, but because we have the distributed power, you really never have more than 3 or 4 in any one power zone. We've really gone to great lengths to make the MTH system work well. We've paid a lot of money for wire. We got it out of Chicago. It's a stranded wire, but it has more strands than a normal stranded wire. The electrical engineers tell me that digital signal travels on the surface of the wire and the current travels in the center of the wire. So by going to a wire that has a lot of strands, you have a lot of surface, and it carries the digital signal much cleaner than a solid wire or even a normal stranded wire. The wire, every single wire and cable is labeled. Every block of track is fed very clearly labeled, very uniform. The wiring, when we went from the old layout where some places we would get maybe a 3 or 4 signal on the MTH, now we're getting 9s and 10s everywhere. It really made a big difference. And we also have the full Lionel system, TMCC and Legacy. There's absolutely no conflict between the two. We've also used the MTH Z4000 power supplies with the little receivers on them, so the guys that have conventional trains can use the handhelds and walk around and control their trains from a handheld, even though they're conventional power. So we've really got conventional, TMCC, and DCS all running, and you could have 3 trains in the main line following each other on 3 different systems, and they all can work. The Gargraves track is good track. We like the wood ties. We've done it on a cork road bed. The one thing I think we've learned the hard way is when the track was originally laid down, a couple of guys decided that we should actually use a hammer and make the joints really tight. That worked out well in the basement of the old church, but now that we're actually in a space with heat, it turned out that might not have been the best idea. We actually had to take turnouts out, cut the track back, because the one place you can relieve that stress is at the turnouts, and you wouldn't believe what the heat will do to actually expand the rails and distort a turnout. We had to replace a few, but we got through it pretty well.
Wow, I had no idea that heat and humidity would cause Gargraves to give like that. That's interesting to hear that.
Yeah, the heat definitely caused the rails to expand. We haven't had much humidity trouble. The layout is completely made out of furniture-grade plywood, the plywood that has lots of plies and very high quality. We actually buy the best plywood we can get our hands on, and that has served us very well. Even when we use 1x3s and 1x4s, we're actually ripping them out of the plywood, and that's very, very stable. It's not subject to much expansion from humidity.
Now, I've got to ask you, it sounds like you guys had a phenomenal plan walking into this, and it sounds like that's why things have gone so smoothly for you guys. In all honesty, was it this well thought out from the beginning, or was there trial and error as you guys went to figure some of these things out?
Well, the plan was thought out by the founders of the club, the concept plan, and then I think in Bob Boland's case, he was able to convert that concept into a very detailed plan, and we have stayed with his plan all the way through. We have a 1.5% ruling grade on the main line. We've got 15-foot radius on the curvature. I was just amazed when I came to the club how he could say, okay, the track that's 20 feet over there is going to be exactly so many fractions of an inch different, and everything could line up and join up perfectly. We've really stayed with that plan. In the move, we did one change. There was an expansion area planned, which went in one direction, and I kind of pushed to set the layout where we had a little bit more room for the public. So that was one change in the concept. There was some grumbling back and forth about that, but the original plan only had about 5 feet of space between the wall and the layout. And back in the old building, we used to have open houses and get a dozen or 20 people, but we've had open houses in our new facility where we've had 300 people. So I think that part of it, giving a little more room for the audience, has paid off well. Although we did sacrifice some extra miles of main line that were originally planned.
Something else that you mentioned that I want to back up to for a second. We have a wide range of listeners to the program. Some have been in the hobby a really long time. Some folks are just getting started. You mentioned super elevated curves. Can you kind of explain to the audience what super elevated curves are and what they accomplish and how you build them into your layout?
Sure. The super elevation is used on the prototype railroads because a train going around a curve that's dead flat at speed tends to tumble off. I'm sure we've all run our old Lionel 027 trains too fast and have them go flying across the floor. The super elevation raises the outside rail so that it forms like the inside of a bowl. You see it on the NASCAR tracks, and if anybody rides a roller coaster, I'm sure you've seen it there. But what it allows is, on the prototype railroad, allows for a higher speed to go around a given curve. On the model railroad, with the deeper flanges and the different things they do, you probably don't need it just to keep the trains on the track. Although curiously, I have some Ives track that was made in the 1920s, and it was actually super elevated. The ties are actually kind of a wedge shape, so the outer rail was higher. So it's not only part of the prototype railroad, but it's used on toy trains and model trains as well. The problem is if you take a flat piece of plywood and you try to make it into the shape of an inside of a bowl, there's a lot of stresses that are built up, and you have to be very careful putting that in place so that you can make some cuts at critical spaces and things, so you can actually take a flat piece of wood and give it a multiple curved shape of a bowl.
So you guys are actually shaping the plywood itself. It's not the track that's getting elevated under the roadbed after the fact. You guys are actually shaping the hard surface that the track and the roadbed are going to be laid on top of.
Yeah, once the plywood is formed into that shape, then the track lays on it. The track has more give to it than the plywood, so the track will follow the plywood shape very well.
Very interesting. So tell me about some of the challenges that you guys have faced with such a large layout. 40 by 60 is not something that all of us can fit into our basement, but I'm sure it's presented some challenges along the ways that you guys have had to overcome because of its size. Can you think of any offhand and how you guys solved those challenges?
Well, the very first one I've already spoken of is maintaining the digital signal across that size layout. If you just take a wire at one end and hope that the signal goes to the other end, it doesn't work. We actually have to feed the wires in what's called a star-shaped pattern, where the wire comes up in the middle and then radiates out like spokes. You actually try to maintain equal lengths of wire from the feed points to the track. Even though those signals are traveling very fast, if you have two very different lengths of wire, it's going to take a different time for the signal to go. And anybody that grew up with rabbit ears on the TV knows how you can get double images and triple images when things are bouncing around. So we've had to plan the wiring of the layout very carefully to maintain relatively the same distances. We've also used a high gauge of wire. We use a 12 gauge wire for anything over maybe 20 feet. We use 14 gauge for 20 feet and under, but that's pretty heavy wire. That's the kind of wire that's in your house. The problem that you're finding if you have multiple trains, you can easily be drawing 10 amps on a circuit, and that is very comparable to your house wiring, which is designed to kick off at 15 amps. So it's low voltage, but it's high amperage, and so you really wire the layout with very robust wire components. As far as the large layout, it's harder to follow the train. We do have walk-around controls, but sometimes you get lazy and somebody stops on the main line and somebody else isn't paying attention and runs into the caboose. We're actually looking at different signal systems that we'd like to put in where we could actually prevent accidents, where a train would cause a dead spot behind it so another train wouldn't collide with it. Personally, I love using relays and wiring things up, but the other MIT guys that actually studied electrical engineering want to use a computer-based system that will actually know where each train is and follow its progress around the layout. And very much like the prototype railroads are used. We've actually looked at software. We saw it down at the Boston Engine Terminal in Somerville, where they actually have software companies that make the stuff for the prototype railroads, and it's the exact same software we need for our model, so we're looking at possibly buying that. And that could be a lot of fun.
Now, I got to stop you here because I want our listeners to hear what you said. the MIT members of the Boston Metro High Railers, you guys have, I'm going to call it an advantage, and you may argue with me a little bit on this, but you guys have an advantage that most clubs don't have, and that is you guys have a great group of folks from MIT that are also members of the club. That's got to give you guys some advantages in terms of being able to attack challenges and problems from a very unique angle. And it sounds like, I guess what I'm hearing that I think has really served you guys well is you guys seem to be a very detail-oriented group of folks that are able to look at a problem and work it through the steps to come up with a solution. Tell me a little bit about the advantages and maybe disadvantages of having a number of people who are similar in that regard in the club.
Well, it has been an advantage. Some people may not realize that MIT is more than just a big technical school. I studied architecture. Other people have studied business management, and of course, electrical engineering and mechanical engineering are huge over there. So we do have a lot of guys from MIT, but actually from different backgrounds. One of the fellows actually worked for General Electric and worked for Electromotive, building railroad locomotives. He understands the systems that go into that, actually designing and building them. It's been good at times. You know, everybody. Well, the problem is everybody thinks that their way is the best. So you do have some politics that has to go through, and two or three guys have two or three different perfect ideas. But we've been able to get through that pretty well. We find the guys that have the expertise. Bob Boland is chief engineer. Wayne Hagman really was in charge of the wiring itself. We've got other guys that are more adept at interpersonal relationships. So it's been really nice to have people that are skilled in different ways and can really pick skills for the purpose at hand. Right now we're in the process of filing with the federal government to be a 501c3 charitable organization, and we do have guys that are skillful at going through that process. So it's beyond just the guys that know how to wire something and make it do something special. We've got a lot of talent from a lot of places, and not just MIT. We've got guys that are signal maintainers on the B&M that know how signal systems work. We've got a guy that's a conductor on the B&M that knows how operating trains works. We've got a fellow that used to work at Enola Yard down in Harrisburg that ran different types of locomotives in and out of the roundhouse. So we've got a lot of different skills, and we really enjoy each other. I mean, there's a bunch of guys playing golf together this Friday that are from the club. So it's more than just playing with our trains. We do have guys that enjoy each other and enjoy each other's company.
I think you bring up a very interesting point by saying what you've just said, and that is you guys have a lot of members with a lot of different skill sets, but it's that collective group of skills that make a club this size run and make it function and make sure that there's progress on the layout, because everybody has different skill sets, and when you guys put those together as a collective, you're able to pull off a layout that size. Is that what I'm hearing?
I think that's the key to it. Yeah, it really is. And the founding members had a vision, and it's changed over the years, but it was a good vision, and it was a good starting point. We've stayed with it. As the club grows and new members come in, we get different ideas, but they seem to work pretty well with what we've had, and we've grown in really good ways. I mean, I'm the kind of guy, I want to get new members, I want to get fresh ideas, and I think that's how things stay alive. We try to do a run night at least every 2 months. The next one coming up we call Reefer Madness, so we're going to have our refrigerator cars running all over the layout. We have done a few different themes, and it's always kind of fun where people bring in their stuff, and I'll write out an email and say, okay, see how many flat cars you've got with special loads and things. We did that on the last run night, and I couldn't believe some of the stuff that showed up. But we get a little pizza and have some dinner, and we had a little movie there about the Big Inch. A lot of guys enjoyed that very much. Nobody knew what the Big Inch was. That was a Lionel car, and I did a little research online and found it was an amazing pipeline that was built during World War II, and I got the whole story of that. So we try to do things that are, more related to the trains, but not just run the trains. We try to do things to learn about all the great things that the trains and toy trains did.
You guys have found a way to keep it fresh in terms of coming up with different themes for run nights and things along those lines. And I think that's the key to any good club, is finding a way to keep the club interesting. And it's also great to hear that you guys are friends outside of just the trains, that you got a group that's going to go out and golf. I think that says a lot about, and this is something we were talking about off air, is you guys have found a way to keep the club politics in check pretty well, and that says a lot when your guys can not only manage to have a cohesive vision for the most part for your layout, but also still maintain friendships outside of the club.
It has been a lot of fun. I've enjoyed it very much. I may be more of a train nut than some of the guys. Some of the guys enjoy the toy trains and don't really care that much about the real trains. Other guys are very much into it. Everybody has different interests, but what I like about it is the guys share and we enjoy each other's company, and it's not like the old days. Oh my God, you have American Flyer trains, so Lionel trains are the best, and all that. We really don't have that kind of stuff. People do have different interests, and they share it, and others enjoy the fact that somebody has a different interest, learns from it, and supports it. And I think I really try to encourage that a lot, because that's, it's one of the things I got out of MIT. I was in a fraternity, and we had a bunch of different guys, and I mean, if you look at all the kooky guys we had, but we all got along, and we all learned from each other and enjoyed each other, and I try to bring that kind of attitude to the club.
That's awesome. Now, something I want to backtrack on for a second that you brought up just a few minutes ago was the software that you guys are starting to look into for collision avoidance. And I ask you because you guys have a large enough group, and obviously a group that is well versed in the engineering side of things. As a group and you personally, how far off do you feel that the hobby is from something like a computer-based collision avoidance system? Do you think it's something that's going to be attainable for the average home hobbyist, say within the next 5 to 10 years, or are we still a ways off from that?
Well, we struggle with that. I've talked many times with the Lionel people when they go to the York meet in April. I think we need stuff like that. I mean, like, young kids today are very sophisticated. I think they would love to get into stuff like that. I think that we can run the layout very much the way kids enjoy video games, where you can put challenges together and everything. And I don't think the manufacturers have quite figured that out. One of the things I raised years ago at Lionel, I said, put something on your handheld controller that's a button that you have no idea what it does, but it's just a button. And we can make that button do something that we want it to do. And they kind of laughed at me. And I'm thinking, when I see the kids with the video games and everything, that's what they do. They go online and they find secret chambers, or I don't know, whatever it is. I don't play the video games, but it seems that when you can personalize it and you can tell your friends, hey, I got mine to do something a little different than what was intended, that would be great. And I just been begging Lionel for years to just, put something on there that's a programmable button that you don't even know what we could do with it. We could hook it up with a multitude of things. I don't know if we can get that far. Toy trains have been a mix. Toy trains compared to scale trains, usually guys buy the train all done and put it on the track and run it. They don't buy the kit with all the parts that you have to spend hours and hours putting together. The toy train mentality is more ready to run and buy something and run it. But I still think if you're going to attract the younger generation, we've got to think outside the box here, and that concerns me a lot. At our open houses, I set up portable layouts. I don't have anything that says do not touch. I put everything out. I got loaders and log loaders and coal dumpers and all that stuff with lots of buttons that the kids can push, and I let them run the trains and flip the switches, and the parents come in, they go, oh, careful, don't touch, and I say, no, just bring them over. I set it up for them to touch, and I get really, really strong comments from the parents saying, we've gone to a lot of shows, you guys really set this up and let the kids interact with it. And I'm just shocked that people don't realize these are toys, and we've got to put them where the kids can touch them. And all the years I've been doing this, I don't think the kids I break more stuff packing it in boxes and unpacking it than the kids ever do by playing with it.
I'm curious, have you guys been able to put some of the newer Lion Chief sets on the big layout yet and test out Lion Chief in a large environment like what you guys have set up there?
Yeah, a couple of the members have Lion Chief Plus, and I don't know about the original Lion Chief, but the Lion Chief Plus runs fine on the layout. Absolutely no problem at all. It has its own control, and it works fine with the other trains running around it. We've found no problems at all.
That'd be interesting in an open house situation. And granted, with an open house, you kind of have to juggle, keeping a multitude of trains running so that the older folks have something to watch. But in a setting like that, I think that would be interesting to hand a Lion Chief remote to a younger person and say, okay, this train is yours. Now get it from point A to point B, especially on a layout that big. It's one thing to do it on a small table when they're just running around the table and the train keeps going in a loop, but it would be interesting to see how kids would react in a larger setting like that.
They do enjoy it very much. Usually when the kids are there, we do hand them the controllers of the trains that are run on the layout and let them run. There's not a lot of, on the smaller layout, I actually have switches that they can throw to take different tracks and decide where the train can go. On the larger layout, especially at an open house with lots of people, that's a little harder to do. But we do have a Lion Chief set that we are going to be featuring at our next December open house, and we're figuring out exactly how we're going to use that. But we do have a nice set that's going to be ready, and we were recently named an ambassador club by Lionel Trains, and they are actually going to provide us with some more equipment direct from Lionel. So I'm hoping to order another Lion Chief Plus set from that. And I think that would be something that the kids can really interact with.
And it's great to hear that you guys have made the conscious decision to put items within kids' reach at your open house events, because you're right. So many people are look, don't touch. These are scale models. They're not toys. And we've heard that for so many years, but the reality is, at the end of the day, Lionel is a toy company. They may be expensive toys, but they are still toys. And the fact that you guys have made that conscious decision to do what these toys were intended to do, and that is to inspire young people to dream a little bit. And the fact that you guys let kids come in and do that, you guys have my respect and my kudos for that.
I really believe strongly in that. We do have a portable layout that put together that's antique trains from the 1930s, and I set that up at several of the shows. And again, I put it right out, and there's buttons to push, and the kids can run. And if the kids come over, I hand them an engine and say, "Here, pick this up." Does that feel a little different from their plastic toys? And you should see the look on their face when they realize how heavy something made out of metal is, and what it smells like and what it feels like. And to me, that's really important, that the kids get more than just looking at it. I mean, looking at it's fine, but really touching it and feeling it and understanding a little bit, and running them a little too fast and they fall off the track and the kids help me put them back on. And all that stuff, it's real important. We did as a charitable thing, we did a layout that's in the Boston Children's Hospital. It's in the waiting room of the cardiac unit down there. And they had a layout years ago, and it was problematic. And one of the things I think was a problem with it was they would turn on in the morning, the trains would run all day and turn off at night. And the thing just wore itself out. The trains wore out, the layout wore out. And we built a new layout for them, and what it has is a push-button control. And I was able to get some old timers from photo enlargers that nobody uses anymore. And the kids push a button, and the train will run for a minute, and then it goes off. And it really did two things. It takes a lot of the wear and tear off the trains, but it gives the kids a direct interaction. They love to push those buttons and make that train go, instead of just standing there watching and saying, "Oh, that's nice." They actually feel like they're part of it. And it seems like a simple thing, pushing a button, but we've gone in on occasion to do maintenance and everything and just watch the kids and how they interact with it. It's absolutely wonderful.
It's pretty phenomenal to watch. And I'm curious, when you guys have open house, what gets the best reaction from the adults and what gets the best reaction from the kids?
Well, obviously the adults are more focused on the large layout and the big trains and the big boys and the sound systems and all that. The kids, they like to see the big layout and they'll look at it, but they keep coming back to the stuff that we have set up that's now where they can really interact with it. And the adults, it's interesting. We had a group came from a retirement home. Actually, most of them were in wheelchairs, older people, and they sat by the kids' layout, and they were just fascinated watching the kids interact with the trains. You should have seen the smiles on their faces. They just thought it was great. So it goes back and forth, and the kids like to play with the buttons, and then they like to stand by the tunnel and watch for the train to come out and, blow the whistle and use the handhelds and things. It's hard for me to say. I think they enjoy the whole layout, but the parents with younger kids quite often will come up to me and say, "This is really great. My kids are having a great time. I don't have to worry about them. I'm having a great time. You guys are great because you're giving them a lot of stuff that they can interact with," and that makes me feel good.
Andy, for folks who want to know more about the Boston Metro High Railers, give us your web address and the best way to get information from you guys about either open houses or even if you're in the Boston area, getting involved with this great club.
Okay, our web address, I think it's bmhrc.com. That's what it is.
Okay, and you guys
I
are
never
also
know those things. I always Google Boston Metro High Railers and it pops up.
There you go. That works too. And you guys are also on Facebook as well for those of you who do social media. And from what I've seen with the Facebook page, you guys do keep up with regular photos and announcements about open houses and run nights and things of that nature.
We are there. We do announce on the OGR forum as well. They've got some listings for our open houses. Our business meeting is the first Thursday of each month, and our major work day is the first Saturday after the first Thursday of each month. In the morning, Saturday mornings, we're usually down there working on many projects. We do have other run nights, typically Thursday nights, Sunday nights, but usually it's best to call. We do have a phone number. If you call ahead, we can make sure that somebody's there if you did want to come visit the club. My phone number is posted on the website. Bob Hilliard's vice president, I think his phone number is prominent on the website, and he's usually around to answer a call and make sure that people are there. So, anybody that wants to come by, give us a call, and we'll make sure somebody's down there.
Andy, it sounds like you guys are doing some great things over at the Boston Metro High Railers. Thanks so much for your time, and we encourage anybody who's in the Boston area, either for the convention or if you're just on the Boston area on vacation, or if you live in the Boston area, make sure to check out this awesome club. Thanks again for the time, Andy.
Oh, thanks for giving me the opportunity. It was a real pleasure.
Another great interview while we're here in Boston. Thanks again to Andy and the Boston Metro High Railers for opening their club up to the LCCA and its members. If you are ever in the Boston area, you need to try and make arrangements to check out the club. That's going to do it for night 2 here in Boston. For all the up-to-the-minute information, check Notch 6 out on Facebook at facebook.com/Notch6. You can always check out all the latest information from the LCCA at lionelcollectors.org. Also, while you're at the Notch 6 website at notch6.com, make sure you sign up for our email list in the upper right-hand corner. That's how we notify you when big events are coming to Notch 6. And we also will, once in a while, send special information out through our email list. Thanks to Dennis Hall, the producer and editor of this show, for doing an awesome job. And we will see you back here tomorrow evening for another episode of Notch 6.
Thanks for listening to Notch 6, the only podcast dedicated to O-gauge trains. You can find every episode on our website, notch6.com, or on iTunes and Stitcher. We'll see you again soon. Until then, be sure to keep it in Notch 6. The following has been a production of Notch 6 Media and is intended for private use only. This show may not be copied or redistributed without express written consent. This show copyright 2015, all rights reserved.